Hello, hello, creepies and crawlies, and welcome back for another fun, exciting episode. Tonight, you're going to want to stick around and listen because we are going to be talking about the Babadook. If you're not familiar with this movie, we're going to tell you all about it. We're going to tell you our thoughts on it, and then we're going to tell you some interesting twists and turns associated with it. In the meantime, let's go ahead and bring in my co-host, Lauren. Hello, geeky gothic gamer girl.
Hello. Yeah, every time you say Babadook, I'm over here, Babadook, Dook, Dook, because I just got done watching it, and that's all I hear now.
I also saw Kat pop in. Kat's with us tonight? Holy crap.
Wow.
Wow.
Hey!
Okay.
Nice.
It's been a minute.
It has. It has.
And we have missed you.
I've missed you girls.
Bear with me. I'm being told that my microphone is not working properly, so bear with me.
I hear you fine.
I hear you.
Okay.
It could be mine.
I do know. But yeah, we're discussing the Babadook. Have you seen it, Kat?
No, I don't even know what it is, so I'm gonna
Oh,
follow
wow.
along with y'all. So
Well, actually, it's a movie that came out in 2014. The movie was written and produced by Jennifer Kent. And this was her, I do believe, second major film. She also did The Nightingale. And there's Jennifer Kent. And it's just amazing because, this is, first of all, we are all about women in horror. So I kind of love the idea that this is a movie that is not only. Hey, Eli has a question.
He says, I'm familiar with the quote, why can't you be normal / screaming kid meme, which I think we all do remember that meme. I didn't even realize it was from the movie until I watched the movie and I was like, oh, okay, now I get the meme.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was a meme. I scream that at my kids all the time. Like I thought that was just something normal we say as a mom to our kids. Like, why can't you just be normal? So
there's no definition of normal, but yeah. Okay, so yes, this is written and directed by a female, by a woman who, in this movie, hit Sundance and just kind of blew up. Everybody was really excited about it. I think that's because you're coming off of 7 or 8 years of torture porn movies, and this is what is considered.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
Repeat that. Repeat that for a second. Did you say torture porn movies?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Torture porn. Movies like Hostel, Saw,
Oh, okay.
all
okay.
of the blood and guts and gory, and just the more disgusting, the better.
I've just never heard it called torture porn. So
yeah, that suspenseful feel was very much lost. I saw nodded to it a bit with like, are they going to do the thing? But that whole like, you just feel uneasy the entire time you're watching a movie. That was lost for a couple years.
Yes.
And well, at least in the I'm quotation marking here if you're listening to this, at least in the blockbuster horror movies. Because we all know they get lots of blockbuster and Academy Awards and all of that, the horror genre.
Well, and I think what was interesting about this, when this hit Sundance, it was being regarded as elevated horror. It was supposed to be more cerebral, make you think a little bit more about it. It touched on concepts that are very, they're pretty deep concepts. Now, the movie itself, I hear people kind of go back and forth and talk about whether or not the movie is a good movie. Talk about, they'll point out everything that's wrong with it, from like continuity errors. But the concepts of the movie are pretty deep. So we're going to catch you up, Kat, so you can follow along. Okay. So
spoilers ahead.
Spoilers are ahead. So the movie is about mother and son, and I'm sorry, I know the son's name is Samuel, and all of a sudden I just drew a blank. What is the mother's name again? Please help me out.
I just watched it yesterday, and I don't remember.
I know, we just watched it yesterday.
We're just going to say the mother for now until someone yells at us in our comments.
She didn't have a very memorable name. Amelia.
Okay. And Amelia was played by Essie Davis, and Samuel was played by Noah Wiseman. Noah Wiseman, just a little bit of information here that I thought was interesting. He was cast when he was like 6 or 7 years old, beat out like more polished older children for this role just because of his ability to be as unhinged as he was. If you haven't watched it, I mean, the kid will make you so everything about the kid in the beginning of the movie is designed to be very uncomfortable. And it is a very, very uncomfortable movie. Eli has another comment. Too many good horror movies are bad. Few bad horror movies are good.
And calling a movie good or bad is so detrimental, I think, to any sort of review. Like, just because I don't like something doesn't even make it bad. It
Or
just
I'll
means that
like
that
it.
wasn't made
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. Right.
I'm
It'll be
not that
somebody like
target.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not that target audience. So
Right.
there's very few movies that I will just be like, this is absolutely terrible. I will do it though. Like, don't get me wrong. I will come out and be like, oh no, this was so bad. But when it comes to movies that people can like debate, if it's debatable, if people can get into it head on head, then to me that's not bad, because it's causing commotion. It's giving people something to argue and talk about. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you can call that bad per se.
If it's making waves, regardless. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this movie did actually make a lot of waves when it initially came out. A lot of people were very interested in it and interested in the concepts. There were a lot of theories following it.
Mhm.
So basically, the idea is you have this mother who loses her husband in a car accident on the way to the hospital while she is in labor. It picks up about 7 years later, and she has not been able to sleep. And the manner in which she lost her husband, by the way, was very traumatic. Not only is she
Mhm.
dealing with postpartum depression, but she is also dealing with the trauma of losing her husband in such a brutal fashion, and then dealing with this child who seems to be. Would you use the term unhinged?
I would, yeah, I had to turn off the movie at one point because I could not listen to this child scream
Um,
about something anymore. I don't even remember. I was just like, I need a break.
I could not get past how much he reminded me of Alex from Clockwork Orange. When he looks a lot. There are photos that where he looks just like the character, in my opinion. I'm just like, okay, it's like a little Alex. And then of course my brain is there the majority of the movie. But
Mm.
one of the things, so she is living with her son. Imagine how
We
his
have
mom
a,
felt.
yeah, Geek Gumshoes down here commenting. Imagine how his mom felt. And if we're gonna like
I
kind of
think we knew.
tiptoe through the whole movie, I do
Yeah.
want to throw in some comments here or there. Like you were speaking about how she's going through this depressive phase and she can't sleep. I
Mhm.
love that they broke that out right when the movie started. The movie
Yes.
started with she is having a nightmare, obviously having sleep troubles. First thing right out of the park. And I was like, okay, this is where
And
we're at. Gotcha.
in a very Hitchcockian version,
Mm.
where she's like falling in that hole, like tumbling to the ground or
And
tumbling
then
onto her bed. Yes, it
bed.
is.
Yep.
So yeah, I was seeing a lot of nods to that when I was watching the movie, and I thought it was kind of fun. But yeah, so she is dealing with a lack of sleep. She's dealing with this kid. She's dealing with postpartum depression, all kinds of issues there. And the child, so they have a nightly ritual in which they read storybooks every night. We're gonna wait. Do you want to read that real quick?
Sure. Eli T. Cash says, kid who's on the spectrum is, quote, unhinged. Hey, why does that sound familiar? Guy who keeps coming in here? Guy named Eli? Huh? Nah.
Nah. And please do not take it when you hear me say unhinged. And this child is portrayed as being on the spectrum, but that's not your. It's very overdone. I think it's very knowing people who have children and knowing been around people who are on the spectrum. It's a very, very extreme version of what it's like everything is always on 10 all the time.
And I like that in the movie, they never specifically pointed out, oh, he is, and gave him a diagnosis.
Right.
We don't know if he's on the spectrum. We don't know if he's also going through all of this depression, or if it's just like him having to deal with this mom who's going through. We don't know exactly what the dynamic is. And that makes everything more like you can't peg it. You don't have a way to sit and be like, oh, this is what's happening. You're just kind of like, what's going on this whole movie?
So the kind of pick up where we were in the plot is they're reading storybooks every night before they go to bed, and she goes to pull a storybook off of the shelf, and it is this blood red storybook that is called Mister Babadook, and it is a pop-up book, and she starts reading it, and of course the book itself is not completed, and it's kind of this creepy it's a creepy story. So
it starts off kind of cutesy, like you read the first page and you're like, oh okay, and then you get to the second page and you're like, oh, that could go kind of either way, and then you get to the third page and you're like, why is the mom still reading? And then
yes. Well, okay, and we're all mothers here. So have you ever gone through a phase where you're just like, my kid's a little off, there's something a little amiss, not like horrible, but you're just like, my kid is a little odd, my kid is acting a little bit, and I know that.
If you've had a teenager, oh yes, you already know when they're into crap, and it's not even something you have to like be like, something's amiss, and you can already sense it before you figure it completely out. But it all comes out, and and you were just like, I was thinking it was, absolutely.
Well, and also with that, when you start dealing with a young child, I have a teenager in my house at the moment, and she's a little unique in her personality. She's kind of a little dark and creepy person herself. So some parents would probably look at that and go, oh, that's not right. Of course, I'm okay with that. We're fine with that here.
Your daughter's not creepy or like, I wouldn't say she's dark either. Just, from an outsider's perspective, I would be like, she's actually very sweet and very kind.
She is very sweet, but she's got some interests that are a little bit on the darker side. So she's, big into horror, big into gore. There's things there that some parents would probably look at and go, that's a little bit odd. But I mean, when she was younger, she was the sweetest kid ever. I will go and say, I'm being reminded that her favorite character right now is Art the Clown from Terrifier. She refers him.
Who that is.
Oh gosh, it's a torture porn at its finest.
There's magic words again.
There they are. I know.
YouTube is gonna slap us and be like, you can't say that.
I'm going to continue to say that because that's exactly what it is, and
it's okay.
Yeah, it's gruesome. It is gory, and it's a lot of fun. It really is. If you don't like people being cut in half, hung upside down, this is not. But it's basically the Art the Clown Never Speaks. So yeah, that's all right. So we have this.
Sorry, I haven't seen it, and you're just like, Art the Clown Never Speaks, and I'm sitting here. It's like, oh, okay. So it's like Jay and Silent Bob minus the J, and Silent Bob is killing people. Got it. Okay.
In a clown outfit.
In a clown outfit.
More like a mime because he's black and white.
Oh,
okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
We're off topic. We have a topic.
Yeah, I know. Terrifier. We're gonna all have to watch Terrifier and put our 2 cents in. Because the second one has been known to make people vomit.
Oh, bring it on.
Yes.
Like motion sick vomit or
nope.
Disgusted vomit.
Yep. That would be it. Okay. So we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do this, and we're going to have to talk about it. Okay.
Popcorn and wine night. Who throws up first loses. All right.
Oh, no.
Okay. So let's jump back to the Babadook. So this book appears. She puts the book on the top shelf, and it shows back up. She throws the book away. It shows back up. This book
Tears
keeps
it to
popping up. Yes.
pieces.
And the whole thing is, if you start talking about Mr. Babadook, you open a door and invite him in. And Lauren, you want to jump in from here and talk a little bit about what happens from here?
Sure. There's this whole concept of once you know of the Babadook, you have to acknowledge his existence or it gets worse, is kind of the concept that I had picked up.
Mhm.
And so the kid, being a kid, was just like, gotcha, scary monster, cool. I'm going to go over here and Home Alone and make booby traps to kill the scary monster. And the mom is just like, there's no scary monster, no monster. And there's all of these scenes of her just, you can't tell if it's a real monster. You can't tell if she's just slowly, from lack of sleep and all of the stuff she's gone through, if she's just losing her grip on reality. You don't know if it's postpartum depression where the mothers are like, they unalive their own. You don't know what is happening. And it is absolutely insane. But this concept of you can't not believe in it.
If you deny it.
If you deny
Stronger.
it gets stronger. Was very much like, that's, to me, it sounded Kruger-esque. And the whole lack of sleep. I know that Freddy kills in the dreams and all of that. But this whole, like, if you know about Kruger, I don't know if you guys watched all the way up to, like, Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare. But the lore started getting into this whole, like, don't talk about it. No one talks about it. You don't bring him up. No one remembers him. It's fine. It's good. And it kind of, like, it felt a little bit like that to me, but a lot less punchline-y. It was a lot more just on the edge of your seat the whole time. Like, you feel like, have you ever taken off on a plane and you're nervous, and so you sit back and you grab the armrest and you just sit there and you're like, it's fine, this is fine, everything's fine, it's fine. That's what watching this movie was like.
That's more like when the plane like hits an air pocket and you're sitting there just grabbing for white knuckle, holding on to the seat while the plane's dropping up 10,000 feet real quick, it feels like.
So our friend Brian Huff says that he hopes the weather is calming down where we are. I don't think it's really hit us that hard.
Not yet.
Not
Some
yet.
areas were out
Although
of power yesterday.
We've had, there's some places without power right now too.
Yeah, Magda actually was trying to join in, and if she's can get her power to stabilize, she's going to try to join us a little bit later, but she's in an area that's being hit pretty hard at the moment. Kat, your face is so far off camera.
I know, I'm sitting here like, why is everybody's heads like, hold on, do I need to scoot?
Yes.
I just don't like getting too close to
okay. No, I'm just like, it's like,
hey.
We're like,
yeah.
Kat.
What's going on with my head? Why is it breaking?
Okay, so the whole would you stop?
I feel like I'm lower too, like I need a chair lift or something to get.
Oh, I'm like trying to back up, so I'm
lower my computer down lower.
Y'all can see the bags under my eyes from this weekend.
No,
so, one of the things that you hit on is the whole idea that you do not know if she is losing her mind. You don't know if this is a real, her son is the one who's basically saying this monster's real and he's in the house, and but you don't know if this is something where she is just really losing her grip. There's all kinds of little things that are going on that you're not 100% sure if the monster is real or not. As the movie progresses,
sounds like The Shining. Like, it sounds like y'all just described The Shining a little bit to me, from where it's like the reality, lack of sleep, and is it real? Am I imagining things? That kind of thing.
Yeah, actually,
that's what I'm hearing. But
it is very actually there was a lot of very similar concepts, because it is the entire time you're watching this, you feel like you're watching his mother slip into madness. And one of the things that I thought was interesting about it is, after the fact, after a lot of people have kind of watched the movie, people were discussing mental health. To be honest, I mean, this was one of the concepts that was being really brought out, postpartum depression specifically. But you're talking about people were talking about, in relation to this specific movie, dealing with real life issues like grieving and being a caregiver and wellness and hardships of being a single parent, but also things like depression and dealing with trauma. So I think that aspect of it I really enjoyed, because if you have ever dealt with trauma, which I think most people at some point in their life have dealt with trauma, and everybody deals with that different. My experience was it physically manifested, and I was I felt like there was something in the house with me, although I know that there wasn't. And it continually got worse until I had somebody help me understand what was kind of off in my head. So
I also very much like how when questioning, okay, let's just speak like it was imaginary, this is all trauma. I like how it did a representation on, okay, she's been through she's been through something very traumatic. Because of that, she is now acting this way towards other people, and she's being traumatic to other people. Like in the beginning of the movie, I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't stand this kid halfway through this movie, and I felt so bad. Like the mom lost her husband, this kid just screaming and climbing, and just get down off the swing, stop climbing the swing set, she doesn't need your attention, like every 5 seconds. And then somewhere there was a shift to where you started to feel bad for this kid having to put up with this mom who's something is always wrong. She's always mad. She's always screaming. He's always the issue, and she treats him like that. And you realize, like, crap, this is all this kid has had to deal with his whole life. And you start feeling that it shifts. You feel bad for the mom in the beginning. And then later you're like, and that gets pushed on to this kid. And you feel bad for him later on, having to deal with the mom who's had to deal with all of this. So I like that it pointed out people can be stuck in their depression or the traumatic situations. And if they don't actively try to help themselves, they can start hurting other people, whether they mean to or not. I liked seeing a representation of that, because that is not talked about a lot, at least in horror movies.
No, this horror movie, in my opinion, really touched on topics that are not discussed often, and especially in that specific genre. And I kind of feel like it really needed a woman to create this storyline and tell this storyline because of the nature of what it's dealing with. So I have to ask, so as a parent, have you ever had one of your kids come to you and tell you that there is something in the house, that there's a creepy crawly, there is something in the shadows, there's something, they're seeing things, they're talking to things, or anything, is just something there that has made you uncomfortable?
Yes. Somewhere around here is a drawing my youngest has done of her lying in bed sleeping, and someone standing over and staring at some big black form of someone standing over and staring at her. And I'm like, who's that, sweetheart? And is that mommy reading you a story? Is it dad? No, that's the shadow person. Cool. Love that. Someone, let's bless the house or something. I don't know.
Well, and kids do. Kids come in and they tell you all kinds of things that they see. The whole idea that there's a monster under my bed, there's a monster in my closet. But some kids have a tendency to be a bit more convincing about that, than others. I know that I have actually the house that I was in, where I was having a lot of the issues dealing with trauma. My kid was, she was young. It was my older daughter. And my daughter was telling me that she was seeing things, and that's another story for another day. But that, I think, kind of complicated, when you have a child that's coming in and telling you, it's like, oh, there's a pretty woman in the hallway, and there's the creepy man at the end of the bed that's holding a silver platter and wearing a suit. It gets a little bit, it's a little unnerving, especially and I was there most nights by myself with her because my husband was working overnight.
Brian Huff has commented, we bought the house we've lived in for 20 years because our son, who was 3 at the time, walked all through the house and came back to us and said, no ghosts. Well, LOL.
Oh.
This one's safe.
Sometimes kids sense that way better than adults do. So sometimes they know what's up pretty fast.
I've always been told that children and animals are very in tune with.
Oh yeah, animals especially.
Yeah. Have you ever had any kind of? Because I know that you like us kind of go into some of those creepier realms and like ghost hunting and.
I honestly, my houses I've lived in have all felt okay, and my kids feel safe and everything. Now, I can't say that, when you have a teenage kid and they invite other teenage friends over, that sometimes you sense something that attaches and comes along with them. And then the next day when they're gone, you're like, okay, let me go ahead and get out the sage. I don't really sage. I'll put, I have my own
the
means.
Metaphorical sage.
The metaphorical sage, even if it's like air freshener or something, I kind of clear.
I can just see you wandering around with Lysol, like, get out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, sage to me smells really dirty. It just, I know a lot of people swear by it, but it just has a very I don't know, like a staunch smell. It almost smells like it's attracting bugs in or something. I don't know. So I just, I have my own means of getting out that kind of vibe out of the house pretty quick. Febreze is definitely a good demon spray. I would highly recommend. I love the Mrs. Myers cleaners for undemonizing the house. Those are very well received also.
Sometimes you can light a candle, and if it's
I would be like the Martha Stewart of how to rid your house of demons. Like, and you don't have to burn I can't say that word. Stuff in your house.
Well, yeah, but you can. We're fine. No, actually, the one thing that I've always heard, and this might help if you don't like the smell of sage, is to use sage to get it out and use sweetgrass braid to seal it out and bring in good. And sweetgrass braid smelling or burning smells so much nicer than sage. So just kind of hit that. I've always heard that. So, okay, where were we? We were saging our houses or not saging our houses.
We're getting rid of things in the shadows and things that had come in and lurk in your home and your kids sensing it.
Speaking of things in the shadows and Babadook, there was so many good scenes. And it wasn't just the shadows. There's the scene at the police station where she's trying to be like, hey, someone's stalking us. I threw out this book and someone taped it back together and put it back on our thing. And like the policeman moves sideways for a second. And in the background is this like coat and gloves that's hung up against the wall with the top hat. And it's not Babadook, but it's the image enough where she was just like, never mind. I'm good.
The costume hanging in the corner.
Yeah. Yes. So many good scenes like that. DL was over and finished the episode with me because we were working on something else. And I was like, or not episode, movie. And I was like, hey, let me finish this. And her husband sat there and he was just like in the middle of the scene. He was like, hey, do you see the thing behind? And it was like the doorway lit up and it looked like the Babadook in the shadows in a scene that wasn't really about the Babadook at that moment. It was about the mom and figuring out what's going on. Where's the kid? And is the mom losing her? We don't know. But just the imagery that they would put in the little touches, I loved it.
I like details too. I would have to say I like that kind of stuff.
This was definitely one of those movies that you had to kind of watch the background and watch the scenery, and just to see where he was popping up at, and they did a wonderful job with it. There was one scene in particular that stands out to me where she is looking into the neighbor's house, and he's standing,
silhouette.
Well, no, he's standing behind her. You can see him. She can see him through the window standing behind her. Okay, so Brian Huff said, I think we need to go back one. There was a
It's Eli. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Sounds like modern. It was very, as I mentioned earlier, it was very Hitchcockian in the way that it was filmed and the way that the story was told, and that whole you don't know if it's real, you don't know if it's in somebody's mind, and we agree. I agree. I thought it was a pretty good movie. I really enjoyed it, but it was something that I kind of connected with on a personal level because of the nature of the. Postpartum depression and the stress related and that. So
I loved bits and pieces of it would remind me of other horror movies. Like it was almost it was inspired by or maybe even nods to. I loved what is that horror movie where they're playing the clap game and there's the closet that one of those walk-in closets and the mom thinks that the kid is hidden in this closet because you're supposed to close your eyes and like listen for the claps and find the kid, and hands come out from the clothes and it does the clap and then the kid's like in a whole other different room. Was it The Conjuring? The closet that they used that the Babadook would come out of from the storybook and then later in their rooms reminded me of that. And then later the look of him and the feel that character portrayed reminded me of in the TV show Haunting of Hill House. There was one of the ghosts that followed the brother around. And if he turned around and looked at it, the ghost would get a little closer each time. And it was like a tall guy with a top hat. And it would just get a little closer. But don't look at it, but he's just going to... And it gave me the same kind of feel. And I loved kind of like being able to pull out aspects of this and be like, that kind of reminds me of that. And God, I love that they combined this with that. And it was really cool.
It's like a pervert vibe, kind of like getting creepily closer. Like,
well, actually, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because I was watching a YouTube video right before we came on, and it was the everything that was wrong with the Babadook in 10 seconds or less, or 10 minutes or less.
Oh,
and
gosh.
one of the things was that there were a lot of sexual overtones throughout the entire movie. And some of them were very small.
Yeah, there was the whole Buzzy scene.
Yeah, there was a whole...
Okay.
Yeah, there was the whole Buzz with the batteries.
Toy Buzz scene. That then the kid jumps and is like, "Hi, Mom!" And she's like, "Hi!"
Like, who doesn't lock their door? Who doesn't shut the door? Okay, but she's also in the parking lot watching like a couple make out in their car, and there was a scene, and it was very quick, and I don't know if anybody saw that, but it was listed as a continuity error. But when she's playing bingo, she's pulling the bingo ball. She pulls out this blue ball, and not that that's the reference, but she's like B whatever, and then I'm slowly don't
be hating. Yeah, sounds like it.
And Brian Huff says, "I think the hand clap movie was the very first Conjuring film." Okay, yes, that's what I thought.
Okay.
But when she pulls out the ball, she's like B whatever, and then when you go to see the ball, it is no longer blue, it's white, and it has the number 69 on it. So there's little things like that throughout the movie that you're just like, oh wait a minute. There's
also that scene where she goes down to the basement, and if I don't think we mentioned, the basement is where she stored all of her dead husband's items. Yes. She had this whole scene where she freaked out on the son playing with all of the stuff down there. And I'm using the word playing with very loosely. Trashing would be a bit more accurate of a description. I can see why. And this is earlier in the film when you're kind of feeling for the mom, like, oh my gosh. But she later goes down to the basement, and there's this whole scene where her husband is there, and she's making out with him, and she's missed him, and then it gets really creepy, like really quickly. Bring me the boy, which is something that everyone's been calling this kid the boy. It was the people at the school when the kid got in trouble. It was like, oh, we're just trying to help the boy. And she would be like, stop calling him the boy. His name is whatever, insert name. I don't remember. Sorry. Thank you.
Samuel.
his name is Samuel, but everyone kept calling him the boy, and it was something she didn't like. So it was another nod to, is this real? Is this in her head? And that's why it's calling Samuel the boy? Or can it know all of this stuff that bothers someone? But yeah, the making out session with the dad there, and then suddenly like creepy lighting all of a sudden, and now bring me the boy. Okay.
And I do believe, is that the scene? Because there's a scene where she sees him again, and his head gets split in half. But is that the same scene? I'm trying to. Yeah. Okay. Because he makes a comment that.
And I have no questioning.
I was thinking there was two scenes where she saw him. It's been a little while since I've watched the entire movie, but he makes a comment to her, and I thought this was interesting. It's another little bit of information that's kind of fun, that this will all be over in 10 minutes.
It'll all be over in 10 minutes. And another thing he kept saying in all of the scenes was like something about rain. I think it's gonna rain soon, or it looks like it might rain, or something along those lines. And it was obviously like, these are memories of things he had said directly before they wrecked and he died. They're like on repeat in her head.
The comment, this all ends in 10 minutes, or this will all be over in 10 minutes, whatever the comment is, that is the 10 minutes left mark, and the movie actually ends in 10 minutes.
Oh, wow. I was wondering how that would be tied back to them driving, like maybe using the GPS or whatever, and they're 10 minutes away from the hospital, or I didn't know how that tied back in, but that's a really cool, just little like wink. I'll be over in 10 minutes. Wink.
So basically, as we're approaching the end of the movie, she has descended very far into madness. And it's actually depicted more as a possession, that the Babadook has now possessed her. She kills the dog.
Which all of that was foreshadowed when the book came back.
Oh, yes.
She tore up the book. Someone taped it together and gave it back to her, and more pages were added to the book, and suddenly she's in the story, and it shows her like choking the dog to death, and then the next page is her killing her kid. And then that's when she lit the thing on fire, and she was just like, nope, none of that.
But it still keeps coming back. The book keeps showing up.
And I love the foreshadowing from the book to later in the movie of she does kill the dog. She does at one point have her hands around her son's throat.
And I love the parallel between the two. And like you were saying, the foreshadowing was very well done with the book. And the book itself was it was creepy. I think we actually have a photo that shows like one of the pages.
Maybe.
No,
okay, it's fine. Keep going.
Just go ahead.
The drawings were all in black and white. They were very creepy. So
except for the blood.
Except for the blood. The blood was all red. Yeah, it was. But I just absolutely loved it. So it comes to a screeching halt when she basically screams at the Babadook and makes it go flat and fall.
Yeah, she super screamy power. She is the canary. All of that. I think it was something emotional with like she was trying to kill her own son, and something like clicked there. I wish that would have been a little more extreme on what switched with the power, other than the fact that she finally acknowledged its existence.
Yes.
That was her screaming at it, I guess, was this is me acknowledging you're a real, now F off.
And at that point, basically, because you cannot get rid of the Babadook, once you have the Babadook in your house, he's there. He's there forever. So now you have to figure out how you are going to deal with the Babadook. And hers was to shove him in the closet under the stairs and feed him worms. So and
that's the end.
And it's basically this, we're gonna feed our pet Babadook that's sleeping under the stairs, and we're gonna give him some worms.
You
and
didn't know exactly, like at that. Okay,
Yeah.
she beat the Babadook. He turned into a pile of clothes on the ground, and then the next scene, it's like her son and her, and they're gardening. Everything's great, and birds are chirping. There's daylight, and it's obviously a while later, and you're like, "Yay, they won, I guess." And he's like picking up worms, and she's like, "Oh, that's a good big one," and they're putting it in a plate, and then she's like, "Now you stay out here, and I'll be right back." And she goes to the basement under the stairs, the closet area, and there's this whole scene of her feeding the Babadook worms, and then she's just trying to survive to get up.
It still sounds like she lost it at that point to me. Like,
well, she's interacting very normally with her child at this point, and with her neighbors. She's no longer appearing to be out of control. Yeah. I think finally they're sleeping, and she's not having to drug the kid, which I do believe there was a scene where he's like, either in with the teacher or in with the therapist. It's like, how are you feeling? I'm really tired, but I think that's all the drugs mommy's giving me.
No,
like,
it was the okay. So the kid she pulled the kid from school, and these officers came to check on the child at the house. Okay. And it's these two people checking on the welfare of the kid. And they're like, "So how are you doing?" He's like, "I'm really not feeling great, but it's probably because of all the drugs mom gave me."
Meanwhile, they shut the door. "Okay, have a good day."
I'm so glad everything's great. I did like at the end that she was finally able to talk about her husband and the death. So one of the things that they very made apparent was this child never had his birthday on his birthday. He had his birthday, I think it was with the mother's sister's daughter, which is a whole nother little aspect of this fun story.
Was that the child that he shoved out of the treehouse?
Yeah, there was the kid he shoved out of the treehouse, and they broke her nose, and the blood was running everywhere. Yeah. But honestly, she was... I shouldn't say that.
She was mean.
She was so mean. Okay. But she wasn't that great of a character. Her mother wasn't that good. It was very much this lady and the friends, the other mom friends at this party, everyone that surrounded this mom and the son were all kind of just assholes. And everything kind of forced them into where they were in their own little almost quarantine bubble just to get away from all these people who are judgmental. And anyway, get off on that tangent. Kid never had his birthday party. Yeah. And finally at the end, he was having his birthday party on the day that was his actual birthday. And the people had come back to check in on him again. They're like, "We noticed it's a party." And he's like, "Yeah, it's my first birthday party on my birthday." And they're like, "Why is that?" And he goes, "Because my daddy died on my birthday." And they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But I do like that the mom was able to chirp in and be like, "Well, and she finally was able to sit down and talk to someone regularly about losing her husband and on the day that her son was born. I think that was a little nod as to, hey, she's good now. We're good now.
So one of the things that I found out that I thought was very interesting, that is one of the fan theories, but it's actually more than a theory. So a lot of people, I saw where a lot of people were inquiring if the Babadook was a real story, if it's a real creature, where did this come from? So I'm going to first of all say that that Jennifer Kent explained that she had a friend who was a single mother, that her small child was a boy, and was traumatized by a monster that he saw all over the house. The other thing that I found that was interesting is the word Babadook actually is a Hebrew word, which means he is coming for sure. And the word Baba is, I do believe, Aramaic for father.
Father.
It's either father, old man. Yes. So there's a lot of thought that the Babadook was her husband, not necessarily, but more his memory. And so putting him in more of a siloed space where she can control that memory and control that grief made it easier for her to deal with real life and her son and everything else that was going on. But I thought that was very
That
I
is
was
interesting.
yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like where the dad disappears and this thing reappears over time, and it's but in a different form.
Can we talk about my favorite
Yeah.
fan theory?
Yes, we can.
So the whole reason I suggested we do a movie review of this is because of my favorite fan theory. I think it started on Tumblr or Twitter. I can't remember. It was one of those T ones. But it was pretty much like, so my favorite meme going around right now is people trying to prove that the Babadook is gay. And they start paralleling things from the movie to being gay, such as coming out of the closet, such as if you deny it, then it's just going to get stronger. People started making a lot of comparisons, and if you know how memes work online, people would laugh at it and then start adding their more, and it got bigger and bigger. And I believe this was around 2017 when this kind of blew up in the LGBTQIA plus community, to the point to where now if you go to Pride or you go to parades of that sort, you'll see people dressed as the Babadook. You'll see it a lot. It's really fun. There was even, I believe, a RuPaul episode where someone they were doing horror, and someone came out and did the Babadook, Shantae you Baba stay. And I loved that they took this character because, and I'm going to try and, I cannot remember the exact wording, I'm paraphrasing here, but one of the things I read online was someone who was like, well, we really identify it, me, because like when you realize this and you realize you're in a place where it's not okay and everyone around you thinks it's a sin and you're bad and you feel like this horrible, ugly monster. And so you can identify even physically with the representation of the Bob, because that's how you feel when you know that you're around people who are not going to accept you and they will view you as this. And I was just like, God, I didn't even think about the physical aspects. I understood, like, aha, tee coming out of the closet. But when people actually started digging down and really talking about why they identified with this character, I felt the comparisons were so passionate about the struggles that they have had to endure throughout their lives and, coming out eventually, and how it was not partaken, how it was, what's the word I'm trying to think of? How their family took it.
Oh, yes.
So that's one of my favorite fan theories, is the Babadook is gay. And it made me want to cover this for the month of June, for Pride Month. There is more with it. At some point, Netflix, they have a section for the LGBTQIA plus. During June, they'll be like, hey, come check out these movies that, it's this section, yay, woohoo. And they slyly just kind of put the Babadook in that section at one point, and everyone's like, why is this a gay movie? And then they started researching it more, and it just kind of like fed into it. So kudos to you, Netflix. That was pretty cool.
Well, but here's the thing. When I went back and read Netflix comment about it, they did it on accident. It was an accident.
Was it?
They accidentally listed it under that header, but then the community started, the
LGBTQIA plus. It's
okay. I'm gonna let you say that.
It grows every so often, so it's a little difficult to like keep up with. I try to.
I think our friend June refers to that as, what was it? The alphabet mafia.
The letter. Oh no, we call it the alphabet mafia. The letter people. June Cleavage,
the letter people.
Who is a guest who occasionally will pop on our show. Really, really great drag queen if you ever want to check her out. But she calls it the letter people.
Yes,
which
the letter people.
Love.
Thank you. Yes, but so it was so Netflix came out and said that they had put it there by accident, but it started garnering all of this attention because people were watching. They're like, oh, okay, well, here's a movie that is, geared specifically to our community. And they're like, was it? And then they start looking deeper into I mean, it's kind of like, everybody who is watching this movie seems to be looking deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And depending on, where you are, sometimes you might see something totally different. And that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed about this, because obviously the letter people community did dig deeper and they found things that resonated for them and, their struggles. But you also have people like myself as a mother who's dealt with postpartum depression and has dealt with that aspect of in my postpartum depression also was related to trauma. So it was kind of one of those things that it really kind of resonated with me because of what she was dealing with. So that was one of the things that I've just really loved about this movie, is that it really connects to so many different people.
I like that it's still, you end the movie and you still go, what? Because it makes you think more. Like the movie itself, whether you're, identifying it with the LGBTQIA plus, or whether you're identifying as a mother who's, had to go through trauma, the movie just in general by itself makes you sit and think, and your brain starts to try and identify like, what's going on, and whatever happens in your life, your memories, the things that you've been through, those are going to be the things that you start to try and identify with. So it can almost speak to anyone. And I love that about it. But I specifically love that it's gone on to be this grand character that people are embracing now.
And it is the creepiest character. It is, I mean, the design is very frightening.
Very cockroach-esque, the sounds that it would make as it was approaching, and like the long fingers almost seemed like some sort of insect legs coming out of the jacket, and the way it moved forward. Very creepy.
Do you want to hear something kind of fun and interesting?
Yeah.
That's not the first time we've seen that design.
Okay, tell me.
So Lon Chaney
I was
in
gonna say.
1927, I do believe it was London after midnight, London after midnight. The design of the Babadook is 100% pulled from this character. And I love classics. I love black and white movies. I love old movies. So when I saw that little bit of information, I'm like, oh, okay, that's why I recognize this, and this character feels so familiar to me.
I was going to say, I've never seen this character ever before, and just from the visual, it looks like somebody replicating, just historical depiction of Jack the Ripper is what I'm seeing.
Yes.
Even though nobody really knows what Jack the Ripper actually looks like, but that's always kind of the...
Yeah, he's always somehow portrayed the same way with the top hat and the coat. Yeah, you're right.
And London in the 1890s, or
But yeah, and it is a very familiar look, and it's something that we've seen before. So I think that also might have been a bit endearing for those, because you watched the movie and it was very creepy and it was very scary. Okay, maybe not so much scary, but it was creepy, and it had some moments where you're like, oh, okay, there it is. Yeah, it was very intense, but there was a sense of, I've seen this creature, I know this creature, and I like this creature. And at the end, when they keep it and feed it worms, so
weird. I'm sorry, I'm just like, what?
I was completely baffled too.
Yep.
I was.
It's possessing you, and you want to keep it? Come on, no.
What are you gonna do? Get out! You're old enough now. Go get a job.
Yeah, exactly.
So at some point, Babadook's looking around going, you're feeding me worms. Can I go to somebody else's house? I really don't want to live here anymore.
Right.
And you're like, no.
You want some Mickey D's?
I know.
French fries?
And then, of course, the other thing that I can only think of is what was the children's? It was like children's taunt, children's songs like "Everybody hates you, nobody loves you. Yes, you should go eat.
Nobody likes me.
You.
Everybody hates me. I guess I'll go eat worms.
I remember watching the end of that and actually singing that. And I'm like, oh my god, this is so horrible.
It took me so long in life to realize that song was about unaliving yourself.
Yep.
It took me so, like, my father taught it to me as a child. It was a song he would sing to, like, be silly with me. And then later as I was a young adult, he did do the thing. And then at that moment, I was just like, oh, I get the song now. Thanks, Dad. Cool.
Oh God. That's horrible.
Oh no.
So
it's dark humor. Just keep laughing.
Yeah, that's what we do. We laugh at the things that would make us break down and cry any other way. So normally we kick off the show with a little bit of kind of talking about things that have happened. And hi, Willow, how are you? So there was a major thing that happened this weekend. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, unalived himself.
I didn't hear that he had done that, but I saw that he had passed, but I only saw like one article about it. So
I didn't see anything about it.
But I thought that was kind of, we do touch on a lot of true crime, and I just I thought that was kind of an interesting fact to know. So
that is interesting.
Anybody done anything fun, interesting that you want to share before we say good evening and wrap it up?
Wrap it up. Not much. We've been birthday partying with the children. We got all schmancyed up and did some photos. We
fun.
Went swimming.
It's a good time.
Yeah, I fill up the weekends to make sure everyone is entertained, and then by the end of the weekend, I look and I go, "Did I have a weekend?"
Yeah,
and tomorrow
I understand that. Yeah, absolutely. I did some swimming myself. I went to the beach and got surrounded by sharks. Then I was no longer swimming at the beach. I was drinking at the beach, but it was just one of those very lively days. But the sharks started off like yay big, and then by the end of the day they were about 4 feet long, and that was the time I was having cocktails in the sand. And then came the dolphins and the schools of fish and then the manatees. So
oh wow. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of sea life going through those few days that I was down at the beach. So
was there something in particular that was causing them? Because I know a lot of times you don't always get sharks right around the beach.
Well, it was just a lot of schools of fish that were moving through, and where I go down to the beach, there are a lot of sharks. What do you call it? Like a shark nursery where they like make pups, and the water's warm and shallow, so there's always sharks down there. But the water was so crystal clear, like you could see them coming through. They weren't bothering anybody, but at the same time, it has teeth. When they decide they're gonna bite something, they're all together. They're like a pack of dogs. They all kind of come in together, and So
I had always heard that they attack in packs.
Everything that you will see, I will say that I've seen in the ocean kind of comes in pairs. Now, one day I did see a manatee go by itself, which was very strange. I wasn't really sure what it was I was seeing. It was huge in the water, and it was kind of maybe about 50 feet out. And so it just looked like a big blob going through the water, and it would just kind of come up and like spout out of the water for a second, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know what that is. And it was only one, so you didn't get a good view of it. But the next day it came through with a buddy, and then it was like, oh, okay, it's manatees today. So but everything, you always have to think, even spiders in your house, if you find one, or a roach, there's two. There's always a pair of everything you find. There's always two. So just keep that in mind.
Where's that demon Lysol?
It's Febreze. Yeah, your demon, if it's in your house, it's got a friend, and You need to get some Febreze and
hopefully
just
it's not your kid.
yeah. Yeah.
Kids, the little demons in the house. You know, all
No,
that make a
I
cute
don't-
little
yeah.
sign.
You know what we have not done,
Mm.
or have we? If I remember, let me know. If I have forgotten this, please let me know. Have we done a episode on sharks?
We did one
No.
on Jaws before, but it's been a hot minute.
Okay.
Just because we always think of like the 4th of July and Jaws and at Amityville Island or yeah, but
I think that we probably might want to do an episode. I think we did a beach.
okay.
What the heck?
I don't
Okay.
remember.
Yeah. So
There's a lot of terror at sea. I will say that.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a shark, there's all kinds of weird
I
things
remember-
you have out there, the Bermuda Triangle and just
We did
go on
like
and
a
on.
water. It was a water episode because it was summer, but we talked about more than just sharks. It was like water slides and
beach.
anything beach,
Yeah.
summer,
Yeah.
watery
Mhm.
themed.
Maybe
I
we
think
need
is
to.
what we covered.
If you'd like to hear us talk about sharks, let us know, because I think that would be fun. Because there's some great and awful shark movies out
Oh my
there.
god, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
I've not seen Sharknado.
Sharknado.
It's been on my list of
And we all were
things
thinking it.
Yeah, there was another one that was Zombie Shark or something like that I really want to watch too. I'm
I
just
still
like,
want to just watch Velocipaster at some time.
oh my gosh, I did too. Oh, I really do.
Megalodon, Meg, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I am being told that we are at the top of the hour. We may have gone over just a few minutes, but any other last comments that we want to throw out there?
I don't think so.
If you haven't watched The Babadook or Two Babadooks, because you know they come in pairs. If you haven't watched The Babadook, you know, go out, watch it. Let us know what you think about it. And until next time, you do it, Lauren.
Pleasant screams.